I came home that afternoon and immediately noticed something was wrong. Someone had placed a heavy chain across my private well house. Then I saw the HOA president standing behind me, smiling like she owned the place. She casually told me that the well was now under HOA control. Linda claimed the well was part of the community water system. She said the HOA had every right to control access to it. I asked her to show me the deed or easement proving that claim. She just waved her paperwork and told me I had better cooperate. I didn't argue with Linda on the driveway. Instead, I went inside and pulled out the original property records. The well wasn't mentioned as an HOA asset anywhere in the documents. In fact, the record showed something much more important. The survey clearly placed a well inside my property boundary. There was no HOA ownership listed anywhere. There wasn't even an easement giving them unrestricted access. Linda hadn't locked up an HOA facility. She had locked up my property. The next morning, Linda returned with 2 HOA security guards. They stood beside my well house as if they were protecting government property. Linda demanded that I hand over my keys and stop interfering. That's when I realized she wasn't planning to back down. I called the county records office instead of getting into a shouting match. I gave them the parcel number and asked them to verify the ownership. The answer came back exactly as I expected. The well and the land beneath were privately owned by me. Linda didn't like the county's answer. She insisted that the HOA had an emergency right to the water. I told her emergencies didn't magically erase property rights. Then she made one statement that changed everything. Later that day, a fire department vehicle pulled into the neighborhood. Fire Chief Daniel Brooks stepped out and immediately noticed the locked well house. He looked at Linda, then at the chain across the door. His expression suddenly became very serious. The fire chief pointed toward the locked well house. Then he asked Linda a simple question. If those hydrants depend on this water supply, why did you lock the owner out? Linda's confident expression disappeared instantly. Linda finally realized the lock wasn't just a property dispute. The neighborhood's emergency water system depended on that private well. By locking me out, she had potentially created a serious safety problem. And now the fire chief wanted answers she couldn't explain. The fire chief ordered the chain removed immediately. Linda protested, but this time nobody listened to her. The guard slowly unlocked the gate and stepped aside. For the first time that day, Linda realized she had lost control. I opened the well house and checked every valve and gauge. The system was still running, but the pressure was lower than normal. The chief immediately understood how serious the situation could have become. Linda had interfered with equipment she didn't even understand. Then the chief discovered something buried in the old utility records. The HOA's emergency water system was connected to my private well, but the HOA didn't actually own the well. They had been relying on my property without telling me. Linda immediately tried to turn the situation against me. She claimed I had endangered the entire neighborhood by refusing HOA access. The chief interrupted her before she could finish. He told her the problem started when she locked the owner out. I showed the chief an old county agreement from years before the neighborhood existed. It allowed emergency access under specific conditions, but it never transferred ownership of the well to the HOA. Linda had stretched one sentence into an imaginary ownership claim. Within an hour, several HOA board members arrived. They had clearly heard that Linda's decision was becoming a major problem. Instead of supporting her, they started asking why she had locked the well. Linda suddenly had nobody standing beside her. A county inspector arrived with the official property map. He checked the boundary markers and compared them with the county records. There was no question about it. The entire well house sat inside my privately owned parcel. Linda finally stopped arguing. The chief explained that unauthorized interference with critical water equipment could have serious consequences. The HOA board members were furious with her, and I knew the fight was finally turning in my favor. The HOA board finally apologized for locking my property. They agreed to remove every unauthorized lock and warning sign. They also promised to review the emergency water agreement with the county. Linda had no choice but to accept the decision. That evening, the well house was finally mine again. The HOA learned that owning a neighborhood doesn't mean owning every property inside it. Linda tried to control my water supply, but her own mistake exposed everything. And from that day forward, nobody touched my well without permission.